Imagine an empire, vast and powerful, its history stretching back centuries, a land of glittering palaces and snow-swept villages, of immense wealth and crushing poverty. The Tsar, an absolute ruler, his word law, yet within this realm an undercurrent of unrest simmers. Revolutionaries whisper dangerous promises, fueled by decades of injustice. A discontented people, workers and peasants alike, long for a world turned upside down. This is the backdrop, the tinderbox in which the flames of the Soviet Union were ignited. But why? To understand the birth of the Soviet Union, we must look to the ideas of radical thinkers like Karl Marx. His theories of class warfare, the exploitation of the workers, and the inevitable collapse of capitalism, these ideas caught fire in the embers of Russian resentment. But Marx was a theorist, not a revolutionary. Enter the Bolsheviks, Lenin at their head, a brilliant, ruthless tactician. Trotsky, the fiery orator, Stalin, the shadowy operator. These were the men who would seize the moment, twisting theory into a blueprint for power. They tapped into a deep well of anger and desperation, workers laboring long hours for meager pay, peasants bound to the land, soldiers dying in a senseless war. Middle-class intellectuals dreamed of a more just society, their minds primed by years of censored speech and stifled dissent. The Bolsheviks were not the only revolutionaries, but their organization, their single-minded focus, propelled them to the forefront of the storm they helped create. The Russian Empire, you see, was always a fragile giant. Its armies were crushed in the First World War, the economy in ruins, the people starved for bread and hope. This was the spark, the whirlwind in which the Bolsheviks saw their chance. When the Tsar finally crumbled, they were ready to seize the ruins. Why the Soviet Union? A question historians still grapple with today. Yes, we see the culmination of decades of oppression, the fallout from a catastrophic war, but that alone doesn't explain the rise and the staying power of the Bolshevik regime. To understand their triumph, we must understand both the desperation of the Russian people and the absolute conviction of men like Lenin. The Tsar's fall brought not liberation, but further instability. The provisional government bled authority as Russia crumbled. The war they promised to end ground on, a vampire draining the nation's lifeblood. Soldiers deserted in droves. In cities, workers took to the streets demanding a change that those in power seemed incapable of delivering. The Bolsheviks, once a radical fringe, saw their moment. Their promises, peace, land, bread, weren't complex political treatises. They were a siren call to a starving, war-weary nation, and those who followed them weren't seeking the finer points of Marxist theory, but simply an end to their suffering. The October Revolution, it played out against a backdrop of utter social collapse, less a spontaneous outpouring than a coldly calculated coup. This victory, though, merely lit the match for a longer, bloodier struggle. The Russian Civil War. The Bolsheviks became what they'd once opposed, an authoritarian power. To consolidate control meant crushing not just the white armies but any hint of dissent. Strikes ruthlessly broken, other socialist factions purged, freedom of speech extinguished. The Cheka, their secret police, instilled a terror that reached every corner of society. Brutal, absolutely. Yet in these horrifying measures we see the Bolsheviks' core belief that without centralized control, their experiment would collapse into the same chaos that birthed it. And for all the high-minded talk of a workers' utopia, their war communism echoed the Tsar's methods, seizing grain at gunpoint, factories regimented like barracks. Did the ends justify the means? Was this the only path out of chaos? Could the idealistic dreams that fueled the revolution ever survive the realities of governing a shattered nation? These questions still linger, coloring our understanding of the Soviet Union's rise and its ultimate downfall. The Soviet Union was a behemoth, sprawling, contradictory, an empire built on an idea. It was the land of both towering ambition and crushing despair, a nation that could put the first man in space, yet stumbled to feed its own people. We may never fully grasp the why of it, the complex forces that gave it birth at that particular moment in history. Yet, echoes of the Soviet experiment still linger. We see the legacy in modern-day Russia, in the nations that emerged from its collapse, in the ongoing debates about the role of government in our lives. Was the Soviet Union a cautionary tale, a warning against the dangers of unchecked power, the sacrifices made in the name of ideology? Or was it a flawed but noble attempt to forge a more just society, a grand experiment gone wrong amidst the turmoil of a changing world? Perhaps, like empires before it, the Soviet Union was destined to crumble, consumed by its internal contradictions. Yet, its rise stands as a pivotal point, a stark reminder that history is never predictable and that the longing for a better world can reshape nations in ways both breathtaking and terrifying. Do you believe change always has a price? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this journey through history thought-provoking, like and subscribe.